Approved versus unapproved. What's the difference? Why it matters? All bioidentical hormone active ingredients are approved for pharmaceutical compounding. However, all compounded bioidentical hormones are unapproved formulations in the eyes of the FDA. Almost all dietary supplements and herbal supplements are unapproved. What's the difference between approved and unapproved? Richard and Quenti, RP-IMD, Ph.D. For a drug to be FDA approved, it must undergo a rigorous testing process. First, the drug's manufacturer must submit an investigational new drug application, IND, to the FDA. This application must include information about the drug's manufacturing process, as well as any preclinical studies that have been conducted on animals. Next, the drug undergoes clinical trials in humans. These trials are designed to assess the safety and efficacy of the drug. If the drug is found to be safe and effective, it can then be submitted for FDA approval. The FDA reviews all of the data from the clinical trials and decides whether or not to approve the drug. If the FDA approves the drug, it can then be marketed and sold to the public. Using approved drugs for unapproved uses is something that healthcare providers do every day. We often prescribe medications off-label, which means for diseases other than those that are FDA approved. This is perfectly legal and ethical and based on the best available evidence. So, if your healthcare provider prescribes a drug for you that is not FDA approved for your particular condition, you can be confident that it is still a safe and effective treatment option. There are several reasons why this is such a common practice. First, approved drugs have been extensively studied, and we know a great deal about their safety and effectiveness. Second, many diseases and medical conditions don't fit neatly into one category or another. So it's often hard to figure out what the best treatment is just by looking at the product's label. Drug development is a long, expensive, and risky process. After a new drug is discovered, it must go through years of testing before it is approved for use. However, this does not mean that the drug's journey is over. New uses for approved drugs are often discovered by accident or through research studies. This off-label use can be precious, as it can help improve the quality of life for patients with serious illnesses. In some cases, off-label use may be the only treatment option available. However, because off-label drugs have not been through the same rigorous testing as approved drugs, there is always a risk involved. Before a drug can be approved for use by the general public, it must undergo an extensive review process. This process begins when a company submits clinical data and other information to the FDA for evaluation. To demonstrate that a drug is safe and effective for its intended uses, the company must provide evidence of its efficacy and carefully document any potential risks or side effects. Of course, this is easier said than done, as FDA reviewers are highly skilled experts with years of experience in the field. Nevertheless, these reviews are vitally important, as they help the agency ensure that only genuinely safe and effective drugs make it to market. So, it is important for people who want reliable and effective medicine to know that a drug must meet strict scientific standards and be completely open before it can get FDA approval. When people talk about drugs being safe, they don't typically mean that the drug is 100% free of side effects. They usually mean that the FDA has concluded that the benefits of taking a medication for a particular use outweigh any potential risks associated with its use. This means that while every medication comes with some level of risk, it also has certain health benefits that make it worth using in certain circumstances. For example, an antibiotic may have serious side effects if taken unnecessarily or excessively. Still, it can be life-saving for bacterial or hospital-acquired infections. Understanding what safe means when it comes to medication is crucial for making informed decisions about treatment options and protecting one's health and well-being. The approved drug labeling for healthcare providers includes critical information about the drug, such as the specific diseases and conditions it is approved to treat, how to use it to treat those diseases and conditions, and the risks associated with taking the drug. This information is essential for healthcare providers when prescribing a medication to a patient. It allows them to make sure that the patient understands what the drug is for and how to take it correctly. Additionally, It helps them identify any potential risks associated with taking this medicine. This information is easy to find and helps doctors and nurses make sure their patients get the best care possible. While the FDA approves medications for specific indications, doctors often prescribe them for other reasons, a practice known as off-label prescribing. In some cases, such as when a patient has an unusual medical condition or does not respond to approved treatments, off-label prescribing may be the best option. However, there are also instances where off-label prescribing is driven by commercial interests rather than medical necessity. For example, pharmaceutical companies may promote drugs for unapproved uses to expand their markets. As a result, patients may be exposed to unnecessary risks and costs. According to one estimate, approximately 25% of all prescriptions issued annually in the United States are for unapproved or off-label uses. While some off-label prescribing is appropriate, patients should be aware of the potential risks before they start taking any new medication. However, one of the significant challenges of using bioidentical hormones is that pharmaceutical companies cannot patent these formulations, and for the most part, they are not covered by insurance. Physicians interested in learning about natural hormones must embark on private institutions, such as A4M, for the education they need to prescribe and monitor these treatments safely and effectively. Without the ability to patent a formulation, pharmaceutical companies will have little incentive to invest in research on that particular medication. This means that patients who want to use bioidentical hormones will need to turn to other sources for this vital treatment option. In the end, both patients and medical professionals need to know and understand how important natural bioidentical hormones are to our health and well-being. For years, the war between big pharma and compounding pharmacies has been raging, with each side battling to gain control of the lucrative drug market. On one hand, there are the large multinational pharmaceutical companies that produce mass-market drugs using mass-produced ingredients. On the other hand, there are the smaller, independent compounding pharmacies that specialize in producing custom-made medicines designed to meet the exact needs of individual patients. So which side is winning? The answer may surprise you. While the big pharmaceutical companies have deep pockets and powerful allies, compounding pharmacies are slowly gaining ground. Here's why. First, compounding pharmacies can offer a level of customization that big pharma can't match. When it comes to medications, one size does not fit all. Compounding pharmacies can create unique formulations that meet each patient's specific needs by working closely with individual patients and their doctors. Second, compounding pharmacies are often able to provide cheaper alternatives to expensive brand-name drugs. Since they don't have to pay for advertising and marketing, they can give the money they save to their customers. Thirdly, one thing that most experts can agree on is that almost all bioidentical hormones are best administered as a custom treatment based on guided precision laboratory testing, something that is not possible with prominent pharma's mass-produced drugs. This is because each person's body chemistry is unique, and what works for one person may not work for another. By individualizing hormone therapy to each patient's specific needs, practitioners can minimize the risks and maximize the benefits of this potentially life-changing treatment. In addition, custom hormone therapy is often more affordable than its big pharma counterparts, making it an accessible option for many people. Finally, by custom formulating hormones for each patient, compounding pharmacies can take into account all of the unique factors that may impact hormone levels. In addition, compounding pharmacies can incorporate several bioidentical hormones into a single formulation. This is almost impossible with mass-produced branded products from big pharmaceutical companies. So, compounding pharmacies can give hormone therapy patients a more effective and personalized approach and treatment plan. Physicians are faced with a dilemma when prescribing medications for their patients. On the one hand, they want to ensure that the treatments they prescribe are safe and effective, while on the other hand, they also need to provide relief from symptoms as quickly as possible. In many cases, this can mean turning to unapproved drugs or off-label medications that may be viewed as risky or controversial by some members of the medical community, but are effective, while on the other hand, they also need to provide relief from symptoms as quickly as possible. In many cases, this can mean turning to unapproved drugs or off-label medications that may be viewed as risky or controversial by some members of the medical community. In fact, many doctors are worried about using these drugs because they don't want to be sued or have other bad things happen. There are several reasons why physicians should not hesitate to use unapproved drugs in appropriate situations. For one thing, the efficacy and safety of such medications have often been established through clinical trials, meaning that they have undergone rigorous testing and evaluation before being approved by regulatory bodies. Furthermore, these drugs may be safer than traditional treatments if used appropriately within carefully controlled settings. Ultimately, physicians must balance the risks and benefits when deciding whether an unapproved drug is warranted for their patients. But if doctors are careful and do their research, there is no reason they shouldn't think about using these treatments when they are right. Clomiphene citrate is most commonly known as a fertility medication for women. However, this medication has also been studied and used in men with promising results. Clomiphene helps boost testosterone levels, leading to improved muscle mass, increased strength, and reduced body fat. In one study of men with low testosterone levels, those who took clomiphene citrate for 3 months had a significant increase in testosterone levels and muscle mass compared to those who did not take the medication. In another study, men who took clomiphene citrate for 6 months significantly increased muscle strength and decreased body fat. These studies suggest that clomiphene citrate could be an effective treatment for men with low testosterone levels. Further research is needed to determine this medication's long-term efficacy and safety. This is a typical case of an approved drug being used off-label or for an unapproved use. Thus, despite its controversial use among the general population today, clomiphene can be an effective treatment option for male infertility. As more research is done and changes are made to this medicine over the next few years, it's likely that men with low sperm counts or other reproductive problems will have even better results. Doctors must keep up with new research for several reasons. First, further research is constantly being published in the medical community, and in many cases, these studies find new and innovative uses for drugs already on the market. For example, a drug initially developed to treat one type of cancer may be found to be effective in treating a different kind of cancer. When this happens, the research results are published in a medical journal. From there, word spreads throughout the medical community, and many doctors begin to adopt the drug's new use. In some cases, further use may become an accepted and widely used treatment, even if the FDA has not yet approved the drug for that particular use. This highlights the importance of constantly keeping up with new research in the medical field. Secondly, by staying up to date with further research, doctors can provide their patients with the most up-to-date and effective treatments. Sometimes, a new treatment may be more effective than any other available treatment. Doctors can ensure that their patients receive the best possible care by staying up to date with further research. Many FDA representatives believe that it is essential that healthcare providers have the flexibility to prescribe approved drugs for unapproved uses whenever they deem it medically appropriate for their patients. This is because these decisions are typically made on a case-by-case basis and must be based on an individual patient's unique medical history and overall health status. While the FDA can provide guidance and advice on specific unapproved uses, ultimately, healthcare providers need to be able to assess each situation individually to make sound prescription decisions. Therefore, I strongly support the FDA's current approach of allowing healthcare providers to use approved drugs for unapproved purposes as they see fit. In the end, this will improve care for patients and help doctors give the best treatments possible. It is worth noting that all compounded bioidentical hormones are unapproved by the FDA. This does not stop any physician from prescribing such for their patients. In most cases, the only requirement is that such a physician has some data, such as a peer-reviewed publication from a medical journal, to show its effectiveness. Likeness, producing an unapproved medication by a compounding pharmacy is an easy process so long as various conditions are met and Board of Pharmacy and FDA-approved guidelines are strictly followed. Please do not hesitate to call a compounding pharmacy in your area with questions. Off-label use of medications is a common practice that can occur in various ways. For example, a drug might be approved for use as a capsule, but it may also be used in oral solutions or other formulations. Additionally, off-label use may involve using a medication in different doses than what is recommended on the label. For instance, if a drug is approved only for use at 1 tablet per day, but the dosage is changed to 2 tablets per day, this would qualify as an off-label use of the medication. While some people might view these examples as simply variations on how to use medications, others see off-label use as an ethical concern, especially for children and elderly patients who are particularly vulnerable and may not understand the risks involved. No matter how you feel about using a drug outside of its intended purpose, it is still an important thing to think about in today's healthcare world.